Hi guys. So today we're talking about differentiated instruction. My name is Brandy Vinskis and I will be leading the discussion on this. So first we're going to start with what is differentiated instruction. So differentiated instruction is an approach where the teachers adjust their curriculum and instruction to maximize the learning of all students. Um, it's not a single strategy, um, but it's a makeup that the teachers use, and they can put in a whole bunch of different strategies to kind of fit the needs of the students. It's not a one size fits all. It's more of presenting the same material to the students, but in different ways, so that different learners can still learn everything that they need to. Um, so, uh, and then it's used because students, uh, their needs change, and so the teacher needs to be familiar with two principles when it comes to differentiating instruction. It's ongoing assessment and flexible grouping. The reason that we talk about this is because, like I said, the students, their needs, they change as they grow and as they learn, and they may change how they learn. Or so we need, as instructors, we need to be able to change as well. So the two are the ongoing assessment and the flexible grouping. So we'll start with ongoing assessment. So ongoing assessment, that is when you use like small groups, or you could get more individualized or whatever. So the way to really break down your groups or to break out down your individuals is to assess them by testing, what they know before you get started. What have they learned so far while they're in the middle of a unit, and then at the end of the unit, what do they know? This really helps in putting your um, groups together, especially beforehand, because you can put different um, people different places. Maybe you want groups, and we'll get into that. So that kind of helps you with grouping. Uh, Here. So then flexible grouping. After you made your assessment, you're able to do flexible grouping, which you can do. So whole group is you staying there and lecturing to your whole class, and then small group, you can break your small groups down into homogeneous or heterogeneous. And so homogeneous is where you have students who are basically all at the same level. They know basically all the same um, things, and so they could help each other as a group learn and build and everything. Or you could do heterogeneous, which is where um, everybody in the group brings different things, different skill sets. So the ones who maybe know a little bit more could help the other ones um, grow grow in what they know, and vice versa. This is really a take and give kind of thing. So if you have one student that knows more about this concept and then another student that knows more about a different concept, it can help to so that everybody gets kind of all the concepts and all the information that they need kind of down. It also helps a great deal with communication. Um, so the next, we're going to talk about how do teachers differentiate instruction. Number one, I can't stress this enough, is know your students. You must know your students. So you're like, well, how do I know my students? How do I do this? There are three areas that you need to really get to know them in. It's readiness, interest, and learning. So readiness is it refers to the student's knowledge um, and skill level regarding the content. It can be measured by formal or informal testing. You can view their academic record, and you can examine um, work samples. So anything that they've turned into you is a great way to judge their readiness. Interest, that's pretty self-explanatory, but it's the skills, activities, whatever that inspires a student. So, of course, you can give them papers like at the beginning of the year. This is a big thing, they get to know me. You can also do journal entries. You can just talk to them one-on-one about stuff that interests them. Icebreaker activities, especially during like the beginning of the year. That's always a big plus. Um, and then another way to know your students is learning profile. And learning profile is the student's preferred method of learning: auditory, visual, kinesthetic, and uh, for me, for instance, a very, very big visual learner. It is very hard for me to learn almost any other way. Number one, visual. Number two, I'm a kinesthetic, and then my last and probably weakest one would be auditory. I'm a very horrible auditory learner, and that is why, for instance, when the teacher lectures to the whole group, it is very, very hard. It was very hard for me as a student. So know your students and how they learn. It doesn't have to do with just that. It also there's environmental factors. Um, for instance, maybe they do better in whole group, or maybe they do better in small groups. Um, they need bright lights, or the lighting is too bright. No distractions versus maybe some like noise in the background. Like, get to know them. It can also be influenced by gender and culture, so be ready for that. And then so observation will be your best one in doing this, and also you could do questionnaires. Um, but I think observation is going to be one of the biggest helps in assessing learning profile. So then another principle, like on how do teachers do differentiated instruction. Um, so changing elements, and elements are what make up their instructional elements that you as an instructor will have to adjust um, based on the needs of the students. So, um, you know, look at content. Maybe you need to change content, but you need to be aware of what knowledge and skills does the student need to master. And then, so another thing you could focus on is process. Well, maybe they've got content down. Maybe they know what they're talking about, but how do I, bring it home to them? How are they really going to understand it? It could be by the activities that you use. What activities do you use to get it to them? You're going to have different learners, and they're going to learn different ways. Some of them just do a worksheet and be done and they've got it. Others need a more in-depth, detailed activity to really grasp a concept. Um, and then, um, so product, that is more or less, it's method students use to demonstrate learning. So how are you going to assess what they've learned? And maybe you need to change how you assess it based upon the student's needs. And differential instruction will involve you changing one or more. There's no correct way to do it. It really is all about your students and their needs. So keep that in mind. So then let's talk about how do teachers prepare their students in classrooms for differentiated instruction. So So it's So the first one, communicate with parents and students. Um, Let the parents know that of course their students are going to be challenged. That you run your classroom a little differently. You know what kind of assignments they're going to have. How are they going to be graded? Different things like that. It's very good to keep that communication open with parents and your students for sure, so that they know what is expected of them, and that's very big. Another thing to do is to organize your classroom. Make sure you have floor space for that whole group and for the kids to spread out. Students' desks, make sure you have the ability to walk around them, and that so that you can be able to help everybody and you're not kind of like stuck not being able to help kids. So there's storage, and make sure you've got enough of that. Of course, as educators, we can never have enough storage. And then small group, and when you put them in their small groups, make sure you have like assigned like work areas and stuff, so that they know where to go to work on certain things. And then centers. So that's very big. Make sure that you that the centers, and it's not big to have the centers, but make sure they're not distracting and everything is kind of put up, but it's also you're able to see them. So just keep your classroom organized. And also have an effective behavior plan. Make sure the kids know what is expected in your classroom, how to act, and how you'll go about the disciplining process, and make sure that's very consistent. That's a very big thing. So then, so what does it look like? Okay, if you're new to this, it's highly recommended that you start small, because there is no correct way to do this. It is it can be very overwhelming if you're not used to it. The school I work at, this is very big. It's done throughout the entire school, so people learn how to do it. But if you're in a district that's just kind of starting it, it can be overwhelming. So start small. Maybe you only change like content for right now, or the process, but change a little at a time, and understand that it'll always be changing, because your students' needs will always be changing. So be able to be flexible. And then this is common practices to stop. So these go against what differentiated instruction is. Lectures, like I said, it's not just starting out like whole group, it is part of it, but it's not just whole group learning. Do small groups, get the students discussing and talking to each other, and get ideas flowing between them. That will really help them grow. Another thing is, if a student needs to work one-on-one because they're just not getting something, like let that be an option. And don't go off of scores of last year's. Over the summer, your students will have changed. People change, it just happens. So try to get new, fresh information. It'll be very, very helpful. Don't do bonus points for classroom participation. The reason being is that it can be very difficult for students to participate in class because they don't feel like they know what they're talking about, or they don't understand a concept. It can be very nerve-wracking. So it's really not fair or beneficial to the student for that kind of stuff. And then right below is the link that I got all this. They have way more information than what I've shared with you. This is just a very quick snippet. But this website is incredibly helpful. It can help you get started on how to do this for your classroom, and more detail on what it is and just where to start. So, thank you very much. You have a wonderful day.